Hi Year 12, this is a quick grammar review of verbs and their tenses, looking over the things that you did last year in French, and just reminding you of the different tenses we've looked at and what you can now do in order to learn them. So what have we covered so far? 4 things, starting with the present tense. We looked at the 3 regular groups of verbs, those verbs ending in er, ir and re. We've also looked extensively at irregular verbs when they've come up, and the main ones are être, avoir, aller, faire, prendre. But there are plenty more, and we'll have a look a bit further down at what they could be. Then we moved on to the perfect tense, which is a completed action in the past when you describe something you've done, formed with 3 parts: the subject, an auxiliary and a past participle. Following that, we've looked at the imperfect tense, which is an incomplete or ongoing action in the past. And we've also had a look at the near future, which is where you put the verb aller conjugated plus an infinitive verb to show that you are going to do something in the near future. So let's look at those 4 in more detail. Okay, firstly, the present tense verbs. So I've got a range of them. The first, the ones on the top are regular verbs, an example of an er, ir and re verb. Firstly, aimer in the infinitive. You should know your endings: e, es, e, ons, ez, ent. And your ir verbs: is, it, is, it, ISSONS, ISSEZ, ISSENT for the verb finir. And finally, vendre, SS, nothing, ONS, EZ, ENT. Okay, so put 4 common irregular verbs there. The verb faire, to do, devoir, to must or have to, vouloir, to want to, and pouvoir, to be able to. And they're just examples of some irregular ones we've looked at. And on top of all those, of course, you need to be learning many irregular verbs. The only way to do that really is to go over it again and again, write it down, whatever you need to do, that it will absolutely drill it into your mind. Okay. So let's move on to the perfect tense. We use it to describe a completed action in the past. For example, I spoke, I walked, she looked, they did, etc. Again, we form it using a subject, an auxiliary, and a past participle. Issues with that you need to remember is that there are 2 possible auxiliary verbs. It might be avoir or être. So how do you know? Well, we've learnt that if the verb takes être, and you need to remember the Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp mnemonic with all the verbs that take être, the past participle agrees with the subject, so a few things to bear in mind there. Finally, past participles are mainly formed er becoming e with an acute accent, ir ending verbs become end in I, and re end in u. And again, there's many irregular past participles which you need to learn. Do you know them all? Have a look back over your notes to work out what they are. The imperfect tense. This is used to describe an incomplete or an ongoing habitual action in the past. For example, I used to like, I was going, they were eating, etc. Formed using, what you do is you find the present tense of the nous form of the verb, you cross off the ONS from the end, and you add the correct ending, which are in red there: AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. And the issue with this is knowing when to use the imperfect or the perfect tense when you describe something in the past. Usually helps to think about what you would say in English, but just be aware of the 2 past tense verbs and knowing the correct one to use. Okay, looking at the near future, this is very simple. You use the near future or le futur proche to describe what you're going to do soon. For example, I'm going to go to bed in 10 minutes. She is going to speak to the teacher after class. You form this one by getting your subject, matching the correct conjugation of aller, and then adding an infinitive verb. Okay, so having a look at these, which tense? Test yourself to see if you can name which tense the following verbs belong to. I'll read them out for you. Number 1, il pensait de ses parents. Number 2, je vais en ville. Number 3, Simon a fait son lit. Number 4, ils vont mettre la table. Number 5, tu voulais un chien. So have a think about those, and once you've worked out which tense they belong to, translate them in your head into English. So pause the recording here and come back to it. Okay, so number 1, penser is the imperfect tense, meaning he was thinking about his parents. Number 2, the V is just the present tense, I am going to town. Number 3, Simon a fait, that is the passé composé, the perfect tense. Simon made his bed. Number 4, ils vont mettre, that's the futur proche, the near future. They are going to set the table. And finally, number 5, voulait, wanted or used to want. You wanted or you used to want a dog, and you can see with that particular one, even though I've used the imperfect tense, it actually sounds better to say wanted in English. So there's a little bit of a grey area there, but you need to look into the context of that one. Okay, so what next? What do you do to go over all this? Well, you need to review the class notes that you have. Then you can find the grammar section of your textbook and make detailed study notes about the verbs and tenses we just looked at. So that means that, when the exams are coming up, you've got a place where you've collated study notes with summaries of these particular points of grammar. Practice online at a site such as, that's actually the Texas French grammar site, which I really liked. It's very detailed. Some good online exercises to practice all sorts of different grammar activities. And of course you can ask questions in class or arrange to see me in a free. We're going to do some more practice of this in our next lesson, so there's another way you can practice. Au revoir.